Anita, great to see you. And before we get started on talking about the network strategy and what's driving it on your digitalization journey, maybe you could just say a little bit about yourself and your role within the company beyond your job title, which I've mentioned already.
Yes, it's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? So if you just think about strategy, transformation, and planning, I sit in the network organization working for our CTO, and I run our technology strategy, our transformations, particularly in our OSS, which is what we see as a major digital enabler for our transformations, and all of our financial planning, our CapEx planning, etc., for the network. So feel like a horizontal across the domains, the access network domains, mobile, fixed, core, etc. Domains that we have in our network organization.
Okay, so let's move on to our first question then, and maybe concerning your network strategy, can you sort of outline what it is and what's driving it?
Well, look, we, as many people would know, it's not one network that we operate. We have multiple networks, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. We've got fixed HFC. We've got our XGS-PON fiber network. And the networks need to evolve for the next 10 years. And given that it's an heavy capitalized infrastructure business, you have to have a long-term strategy. What we call that our network end state architecture. I don't actually like the name end state because I think the future is always evolving and we're always
at the horizon. You never get to it.
The horizon keeps changing, but I've inherited the title, so we'll go with it. It's a 10-year strategy, a rolling 10-year strategy to deliver a network and an organization that's fit for the future. And it includes our digitalization of the network, right? We look to 2030 and beyond, includes an op model. How are we going to evolve our op model? Because typically people do the technology bit, but they don't evolve their organization to respond to that classically. And it's directly linked to our business strategy. I think that's a key point to make because that drives some of the evolution. So if I think about the pillars I talked about, our strategic pillars for our strategy, it's always put the customer first, as you would expect, and we're dialing up that customer centricity. So what does that mean? Basically, the types of products we launch, IP only, okay, or the laser sharp focus that we have on Telecom Security Act, which I look at it as a way of protecting customers, right? It's a bit annoying because it takes a lot of effort to implement, but it is actually there to protect the customers with that lens. So putting the customer first, simplifying our network and our organization. What do I mean by that? So for example, things as basic as reducing our technical footprint, our sites, consolidating our sites to move them to, what is fit for the future, both in terms of energy efficiency, but also the technology that underpins that. So, we've been shutting down our Poplar site, moving to our Cannon Street site. It's like chalk and cheese, totally like chalk and cheese. And we did that. We were able to automate the customer migrations on that, again, as part of our digitization strategy. So pillar number 2 is simplification. Pillar number 3 is reliability, right? Products and services being reliable. And this point about trust, not trust just in the network, but trust in the brand needs to manifest in every part of your strategy. That is going to be the customer experience currency of the future. So then being efficient and effective. So that's where our transforming our OSS state that orchestrates our network is going to be key. We've got 200 legacy applications. We're going to cut those down and we are going to move them to a level of maturity with new applications that enable us to do a lot of things that we can't do today over the coming years. And then making us fit for the future is translating all of that in a reduced total cost of ownership. so that we make better use of our the scarce capital that we have. As part of that, whether we're sunsetting 3G, 2G, and consolidating our network is a key part of that. Hopefully that all makes sense.
Yes, it does. There's a lot of moving parts, aren't there? And I appreciate we've just agreed that the future and your goals, you're never going to reach them because they change before constantly.
Yeah.
But I mean, on your journey, I mean, how far, let's say from 1 to 10, how far would you say you are? Or do you think you're always stuck on 2 because of this moving effect?
So it's unfortunately, it's not a straight line, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But if I said that, our 3-year plan of record, if you like, gets us to 30% of our journey, we are pretty much, give or take, on track for that. So, we launched 5GSA last year. We are on track for the number of sites that we're closing down and consolidating. We're on track for our backhaul strategy. We're on track for some of our green initiatives. And we're also on track for things like the switches that we're decommissioning across the network and the OSS applications that we're decommissioning and refreshing. So, it's been, I think, we started this journey before my tenure with VMO2 for sure in end of 23, beginning of 24, middle of 24 is when I joined. Last year was a challenging year, but we can really evidence moving the dial, and we've got the roadmap underpinned to get us to a 3-year plan of record. And then you still need to keep refining that as you go along.
Okay. I'm obviously we can't talk about network strategy, I think, without bringing AI into it somehow. I don't think we've time because you need to leave sharpish to run the Daisy video, which is a shame. But could you, I know, but please could you talk about the network AI strategy and how you see it evolving and where you think the most crucial places are to use AI? Now, clearly with Daisy, call scamming is one big thing that you...
Yeah. Maybe if I take a step back and first talk about our overall Virgin Media O2 AI strategy, because you need to have an enterprise lens on this before you have a network lens. And I'm genuinely proud of the way we've approached this in VMO2. We've put a lot of the enablers in place, and I want to give a lot of kudos to my colleague, Eric Tyree, and the work he's done in terms of setting up an AI COE, a Center of Excellence in VMO2, the work we've collectively done in moving our data into GCP, because I think you can't talk about AI without talking about data and your data strategy. Having the data in one place and cleaning it up as we've done that has been fundamental enabler. And I can put my hands on my heart and say, we've probably got 70% of the data in GCP and 70% of what I call the messiest data, certainly for the network, the access data, right? If you think about that, so that makes it easier to underpin an AI strategy. We've sorted out the operating models, so the Center of Excellence is in the center, but we have a hub and spoke. So I'm a spoke, if you like, in the network for the hub. So there is a federated model in place. We've got our policies in place. We've got our approach to security in place. And we have the right partnerships. So you will have read about our partnership with Google in this space. So those are all really key enablers for the enterprise-wide strategy. And we've started to scale across the board. Right now, the Daisy scammers video sets out, one of the, and it's the reason I like that. That's really just for our customers. We're doing that for the customer, right? We're deflecting scam calls to from our customers to an AI that basically engages the scammers, right? And then passes that information on to people who can do something about it.
Could you just tell me a little bit more, Anita, about how you figure out this calls a scammer? Is it the number it comes from, or?
Yes, it's the number that comes from.
We've got Daisy ready, it turns out, so we'll have a go in a minute.
Yeah, let's play it quickly. It's only 2 minutes.
Okay, Martin, could we run Daisy?
Right, ma'am, if you're aware of that and you don't know how to use the Play Store application or how to use your mobile phone, like if you're wasting our time, then you're going to lose all of your money, ma'am.
Oh dear, that sounds quite alarming. I'm just trying my best here, you know. The spinning circle is still going and I'm worried about my money, but I really don't want to share anything.
Seems maybe.
Hello, scammers. I'm your worst nightmare.
Now, we've all had phone calls from scammers pretending to be your bank or making you an offer that's just too good to be true.
Now, let me introduce you to Daisy here.
She's been designed to annoy the scammers. And she keeps them on the phone for ages and ages.
To get details on how scammers are working, but also waste their time to make sure they're not targeting someone else.
How clever.
Very clever.
The scammers go insane. They are tying the scammers up on our behalf.
Yes, dear.
Típicos tópicos del anciano.
I think Daisy is about to become everyone's new favorite granny, right?
God, how time flies.
Stop calling me dear, you stupid.
Got it, dear.
Here's how we did it. First, we created Daisy's unique personality. We gave her hobbies and interests, a backstory, everything to make her feel real. Next, we trained her on hundreds of hours of real scam calls. Then the sneaky bit. We used number seeding to get Daisy's number onto the scam call center's databases. And then all we had to do was wait for the phone to ring.
It's showing me a picture of my cat, Fluffy.
It's showing you the picture of your cat, Fluffy.
So W's then a dot.
I think your profession is bothering people, right?
I'm just trying to have a little chat. Do you like, say, hacker or snacker? Speak soon, scammers.
Oh, that's rather entertaining, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, again, my point there is that is really to protect our customers, deflect the calls, but also gain information where you can then do something about it. The right people can do something
So by that interchange of information as well between the virtual older lady and the scammers, you also figure out what their modus operandi is.
Yes.
Get more and more information about
basically
what they're up to and how they're doing it.
She is trained to do exactly that, Annie, exactly that. And obviously it's a learning model. But I use that as an example of something that is, you know, purely customer focused and speaks to our ambition to become increasingly customer centric. And
but it's pulling data from the network to trigger it.
Yes, obviously, a lot of data sits in our network, but that's not what I'm trying to show you is our overall strategy in our AI strategy. And then if I bring it down to the network, we mirror that, right? What do I mean by we mirror that? We've put a lot of the enablers in place. What do I mean by enablers in this example? We built our digital twin for our XGS-PON fiber network, right? That's really important. We also have a roadmap to do that across our networks. That is a key enabler. We've set up our AI factory, which means that we can actually do our use cases secure by design and have a rapid throughput. And then we are working on our big bets, 3 big bets to actually scale AI across the network, right? And we're doing that in partnership, one of them in partnership with Google. And that includes things like autonomous energy and looking at how we can really make a step change in our using AI in our operations. And the interesting thing about this is you're always having to make trade-offs, right? What do I mean by that? For example, do you deepened investment to provide a knowledge advisor for the frontline, who deal with calls in your operations, or do you actually focus on training models to predict fault rates, fix the faults remotely, and then if you're still getting tasks coming through, automating that, and doing everything you can to avoid rolling a van out to your network.
So you apply more automation as a fault is escalated if the first fix doesn't work or the first level of automation.
Basically, but the point is, you could put some investment providing an agentic to support your agent, or you actually try and avoid the fault happening in the first place, or predict it and therefore address it before it even manifests for the agent. Right, and those are the real-time trade-offs you have to make. Where do you want to put your effort and resources? And then it's about scaling. And that's a passion of mine because, look, the other major area where you put your investment is at the customer-facing end. All the things like we've already done, personalization, preventing churn, all our LLMs there are in place. But if you think about how we will support our customer-facing contact center agents and looking at the use cases there to support those agents, you got to be able to scale so that you are impacting the total workload of an agent. Because if you only provide the capability to summarize and QA wrap notes, right? That is a portion of my workload, but it's not all of my workload. If your agent assist then also helps with vulnerability, that is again not the totality of my workload. So you need to be able to scale your use cases to the point where it makes a step change in the operating model for your frontline agents.
So scale really is the key, and that's clearly a major criterion when you're thinking about where and how to deploy.
Exactly, and I'm conscious I've probably talked too much already.
Yeah, no, you've got about 3 more minutes. So I think maybe could we just talk for your last little bit about how you think your strategy is going to evolve in the next 5 years. But I'm thinking as I'm saying this, just like since ChatGPT popped up 3 years ago, who could have predicted everything that's happened there? But anyway, with your crystal ball, Anita, how do you think it's going to evolve in the next 5 years, maybe?
It's a really interesting question, and I think we're if we can actually achieve the step change that we are looking for in automation in our network, and the customer experience that will drive. And if we can truly scale AI and really have a network for AI, then we can get a different transformation and a different conversation going.
Okay, so it sounds like even how you're thinking about transformation has and is changing. Maybe not the goals, I might be so bold as to say, but so much as how you think you're going to achieve it.
Exactly. So the outcomes will stay the same, but the path will evolve for sure.
Okay, Anita, I'm aware you have a hard stop. Thank you very much indeed.